Hello, children. Today we move on to chapter 5 of the book Moments, The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde was an Irish poet and playwright. Known for his biting wit and glittering conversational skill, he became one of the best known personalities of his day. Two of his notable plays are The Importance of Being Earnest and The Picture of Dorian Gray. He is also the author of short stories like The Canterville Ghost, The Selfish Giant, etc. And the one that you have to learn, that is The Happy Prince, belongs to this category. Now we move on to the story. High above the city, on a tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes, he had two bright sapphires, and a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. The column means pillar. So, high above the city, on a tall pillar, there was a statue of the Happy Prince. Now, what was special about the Happy Prince statue? He was covered with gold. Gilded means covered thinly with gold. And in the place of eyes, he had two bright sapphires. And a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. Hilt means the handle of a weapon. So on the handle of the sword, he had a large red ruby. One night, there flew over the city a little swallow. Swallow is a small bird. His friends had gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before, but he had stayed behind. For some reason, he had not accompanied his friends. Then he decided to go to Egypt too. All day long he flew, and at night time he arrived at the city. Where shall I put up? He said. Put up means stay temporarily other than in one's own house. So where shall I put up? He said. I hope the town has made preparations. Then he saw the statue on the tall column. I will put up there, he cried. It's a fine position with plenty of fresh air. So he alighted just between the feet of the Happy Prince. So seeing the statue on the tall pillar, he found that that was a very comfortable place because it had plenty of fresh air. So he landed. Alighted means landed. Just between the feet of the Happy Prince. I have a golden bedroom, he said softly to himself as he looked around, and he prepared to go to sleep. So not only fresh air, today I can sleep in a golden bedroom, and he prepared to go to sleep. But just as he was putting his head under his wing, a large drop of water fell on him. What a curious thing, he cried. There is not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear and bright, and yet it is raining. Then another drop fell. What is the use of a statue if it cannot keep the rain off? He said. I must look for a good chimney pot. And he determined to fly away. So when the drops of water started falling on him, he felt that it was raining, and early he had felt that it was a very comfortable place with fresh air and all. Now he felt if a statue cannot keep the rain off, it's better that I find a better place for a good chimney pot. But before he had opened his wings, a third drop fell, and he looked up and saw. What did he see? The eyes of the Happy Prince were filled with tears, and tears were running down his golden cheeks. His face was so beautiful in the moonlight that the little swallow was filled with pity. The third time when the water fell on him, he just looked up in anger, and then he realized it was not rain. It was the tears falling down from Happy Prince's face, and he felt pity. Who are you? He said. I am the Happy Prince. Why are you weeping then? Asked the swallow. Look at that. You are the happy. I am the Happy Prince. Okay, you are the Happy Prince. Then why are you weeping? You have quite drenched me. Drenched means soaked. When I was alive and had a human heart, answered the statue, I did not know what tears were, for I lived in the palace where sorrow is not allowed to enter. My courtiers called me the Happy Prince, and happy indeed I was. So I lived, and so I died. And now that I am dead, They've set me up here so high that I can see the ugliness and all the misery of my city. And though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. Look at the irony here. When this prince was alive, everybody around him saw to it that he was happy. He had not even known what sorrow was. Look at the line, sorrow is not allowed to enter. He never experienced, he never thought that there is something called sorrow. And he lived as a happy prince and he died as a happy prince. And after death, he is given such a position, high position, from where he could see the ugliness and the misery of his people. But then he didn't have a human heart. He's dead, right? His heart is made of lead. But he says that even though it is made of lead, I cannot choose but weep. He is helpless. Being a statue, he is helpless now. So when he was alive, when he could have done a lot to help his people, that time everybody around him prevented him from seeing sorrow. And now when he is dead, he sees all that, but helpless. His heart is made of lead, still he cannot control his tears. That is a condition. What? Is he not solid gold? Said the swallow to himself. Why? Because he said that his heart is made of lead. He was too polite to make any personal remarks. Far away, continued the statue in a low musical voice. Far away in a little street, there is a poor house. One of the windows is open, and through it, I can see a woman seated at a table. Her face is thin and worn, and she has coarse red hands. Coarse means rough, all pricked by the needle, for she is a seamstress. Seamstress is a woman who sews. She is embroidering flowers on a satin gown for the loveliest of the queen's maids of honor to wear at the next court ball. In a bed in the corner of the room, her little boy is lying ill. He has a fever and is asking his mother to give him oranges. His mother has nothing to give him but river water, so he is crying. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out of my sword hilt? My feet are fastened to this pedestal and I cannot move. So, seeing that sight, I need not explain again, it's self explanatory. A seamstress who finds it difficult to manage life. Her son is not well. He is asking for orange. So, the prince tells Swallow that my feet are fastened to this pedestal. Pedestal is a base on which a statue is mounted. So, I'm fixed. I cannot move. Otherwise, I would have gone and given. So, can you just take the ruby out of my sword hilt and give it to them? I am waited for in Egypt, said the swallow. My friends are flying up and down the Nile. Nile is a river. And talking to the large lotus flowers. Soon they will go to sleep. So see, my friends are all in Egypt. They are waiting for me and they will all go to sleep. The prince asked the swallow to stay with him for one night and be his messenger. The boy is so thirsty and the mother so sad, he said. I don't think I like boys, answered the swallow. I want to go to Egypt. But the happy prince looked so sad that the little swallow was sorry. It is very cold here, he said, but he agreed to stay with him for one night and be his messenger. So even though he had 1,000 reasons to tell, like my friends are waiting there, they are talking to the large lotus flowers, they will go to sleep before if I don't go now, and I don't like boys, it's very cold here. Still he decides to stay for one night and be the messenger of the prince, feeling pity for the messenger, feeling pity for the prince. Thank you, little swallow, said the prince. The swallow picked out the great ruby from the prince's sword and flew away with it in his beak over the roofs of the town. He passed by the cathedral Cathedral, the principal church of a diocese, which the bishop is often associated, where the white marble angels were sculptured. He passed by the palace and heard the sound of dancing. A beautiful girl came out on the balcony with her lover. I hope my dress will be ready in time for the state ball, she said. I have ordered flowers to be embroidered on it, but the seamstresses are so lazy. So look at the attitude of the rich people. That from what the happy prince told, we know how that seamstress is struggling to do her work, to manage. And here they say that they are also lazy. I've given the work, she has not given it back. He passed over the river and saw the lanterns hanging on the masts of the ship. At last he came to the poor woman's house and looked in. Who is that he here? The swallow. Yes. The boy was tossing feverishly on his bed. Tossing means twisting and turning. And the mother had fallen asleep. She was so tired. No, so we can understand. It is not out of laziness that she cannot finish. She is also tired and exhausted. In he hopped and laid the great ruby on the table beside the woman's thimble. Now, what is thimble? It's a small metal or a plastic cap with a closed end, worn to protect the finger and push the needle in sewing when you do the sewing. Then he flew gently round the bed, fanning the boy's forehead with his wings. How cool I feel, said the boy. I must be getting better. And he sank into a delicious slumber. Delicious slumber here it means sweet sleep. Then the swallow flew back to the happy prince and told him what he had done. It is curious, he remarked, but I feel quite warm now, although it is so cold. Why is it like that? He says that the climate or the weather, it is cold, but I feel quite warm now. I think it is I think it's to be very curious. Why is it like that? Haven't we all experienced something like this in life? Yes, when we get the satisfaction that we have done a good thing, when we are able to help others in need, we get such a feeling, such warmth within. Understand? That is because, look at that, the swallow, that is because you have done a good action, said the prince. When the swallow says this, and the little swallow began to think and then fell asleep. Thinking always made him sleepy. Like studying always make you all feel sleepy, right? Like that, thinking made swallow sleepy. When day broke, he flew down to the river and had a bath. Tonight I go to Egypt, said the swallow. So he decided, okay, yesterday one night I stayed back for the prince. Today anyway I will go. And he was in high spirits at the prospect. Prospect means likelihood. Okay, tonight, I just have to wait till night. I'll go. He visited all the monuments and sat a long time on top of the church steeple. Steeple church tower. When the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. Okay, night time. When the when the moon rose, that denotes that it is night time. He came back to the happy prince. What is his decision? Today I will go to Egypt. Okay, he comes back to tell happy prince that. Okay, we'll stop there today and continue in the next session.